Good afternoon. If you can give us just a couple of minutes and we will start. Thank you. Sincere apologies, we'll start shortly. We are just waiting for this door to be closed so that there's no echo in the room once we start talking. So it's just a small logistical issue. Thank you. It's good? All right, so we are going to start. Apologies for the slight delay. Dear friends, dear colleagues, a warm welcome to all of you who are in Poland, also sitting in the room, and also to those of you that are joining us online from different parts of the world to be part of this important discussion. By way of introduction, my name is Revai Makanje Olbeck, and I'm the Global Lead for Rule of Law, Justice and Security with UNDP, and it is really my utter pleasure to be moderating the session today on judicial integrity and public trust. It is also really my delight and my honor to welcome the distinguished panelists that you'll be seeing very shortly when they come on stage and when they come to address you, who are eminent judges, eminent members of civil society, guardians of justice, and stewards of integrity, who join us today to really share important aspects of their perspectives and reflect on the critical pillars of democracy and sustainable development. And the two pillars for today's discussion being judicial integrity and building public trust. Let me also just start before we get into the conversation to say as UNDP, we are truly pleased to co-host this event with the Thailand Institute of Justice, with UNODC, with the Open Government Partnership. And I really want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the World Justice Project and to the Ministry of Justice in Poland for hosting us here. Colleagues, the conversation that we are going to be having today is almost a continuation of the panel conversation that we had just before lunch. One of the key aspects that is quite apparent and very clear is that across the globe, the rule of law continues to face unprecedented challenges and unprecedented pressure. From growing inequalities, and we have heard about this before, political polarization, disinformation is a big issue, institutional fragility is a big issue, as well as the erosion of civic space. And in many contexts that we are living in, and in many contexts globally, one of the key things that we are facing as a big challenge is not only about how courts are expected to uphold legal certainty and deliver justice impartially, but it's also about how the courts and the legal systems have to navigate extremely complex socio, economical, political, environmental demands. And all of this often marked with huge fragility and areas of crisis. So it is against this backdrop that we really believe that this conversation on judicial integrity is an important one to have at this point in time. And as you will hear from the panelists, it's not just about a technical ideal, it is a strategic imperative. And it is about affecting the lives of people. So when we talk about people-centered justice, and when we talk about delivering for the people, the rule of law, judicial integrity, and independence is right at the heart of it. So this is really also about sustaining legitimacy, protecting rights, and ensuring that justice is not only done, and I know it's a familiar saying for a lot of us, but definitely justice is seen to be done. With those words, I would like to not take too much time anymore, but rather start by inviting Professor Kittipong Kitayarak, Chairperson of the Board of the Thailand Institute of Justice, to come and give broad opening remarks regarding our topic today. Say you're most welcome, and it's a pleasure to have you in this discussion.
Distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends, good afternoon. Let me begin by express my deep appreciation to World Justice Project, the Ministry of Justice of Poland, and our partner, UNDP, UNODC, Open Government Partnership, for bringing us together to reflect on one of the most critical issues shaping judicial system today, that is judicial integrity. At its core, judicial integrity is about more than resisting corruption. It is about ensuring that courts function with independence, fairness, and transparency, so that justice is not only done, but seen and believed by the public. Without that foundation, the rule of law weakens, and without public trust, even the most well-designed institutions lose their legitimacy. But trust is never automatic. It must be earned, protected, and renewed, especially in societies where people have experienced inequality, exclusion, or political instability. When judicial integrity is questioned, it is the marginalized, the poor, the disempowered, those without access who suffer most. They are often the first to lose faith in the system and the last to recover it. Across Asia and elsewhere, we face common challenges, perceptions, and oftentimes realities of bias in politically sensitive or high-profile cases. Weak safeguards against undue influence in judicial appointment or decision-making, limited access to clear, understandable reasoning behind judgments, and a broader sense that justice remains distant, complicated, and beyond the reach of ordinary people. In transitional societies where democracy is fragile, judicial integrity faces particularly difficult tests. Courts and increasingly independent oversight institutions that exercise quasi-judicial powers, such as Constitutional Court, anti-corruption bodies, or electoral commissions, are often expected to serve as stabilizing forces. While they are part of the system of checks and balances, these institutions may become arenas of political contestation, especially when their decisions shape electoral outcomes or shift institutional power. In such context, the line between judicial independence and freedom from political influence can become dangerously blurred. This makes transparency, clear reasoning, and public explanation even more essential, not just for legal legitimacy, but for sustaining public trust and democratic resilience. Even when courts function properly, the surrounding ecosystem of justice institutions, that is police, prosecutors, legal aid, correction, may fall short. Without a strong culture of accountability and coordination, judicial integrity alone cannot deliver equal justice. We must also remember that judicial integrity is not only about decisions made inside courtrooms, but about how justice is experienced by the people in everyday life. A system can be legally sound, yet still feel distant or alienating to those it serves. That is why judicial integrity must include accessibility, not just in legal terms, but in social, cultural, and even linguistic ones. In Thailand, southern provinces, for example, language barriers continue to prevent many from fully participating in the legal process. This quiet but persistent gap weaken public confidence and contribute to the sense that justice is not for everyone. At my institute, the Thailand Institute of Justice, or TIJ, we have tried to respond to these challenges through inclusive initiatives. One example is Justice by Design, a joint effort with the judiciary grounded in design thinking. It invites users to reimagine how justice services are delivered from the perspective of those who actually need them. It's a reminder that reform often starts by listening. And now, the digital era brings new and urgent questions about fairness and integrity. Algorithms may increase efficiency, but they also risk embedding bias. Virtual hearing can broaden access, but leave behind those without digital literacy or connectivity. Meanwhile, social media bring new expectations for real-time transparency, but also create an environment where judicial work can be misunderstood, misinterpreted, or politicized. Ladies and gentlemen, in addressing this very important topic, let me leave you with this. Judicial integrity must be seen not only as a legal principle, but as a broader institutional, ethical, and social commitment to fairness, to transparency, and to public trust. Above all, it's about building a justice system that listens, explains, and earns trust every day. As we open this session, I hope we can reflect together on both the pressure we face and the progress we made across the region. I look forward to learning how different countries are navigating the delicate balance between judicial independence, institutional stability, and democratic accountability, and how we can work together to rebuild and strengthen confidence in justice. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for those wise words and also for leaving us with some key questions for us to ponder upon during the panel conversation. I would like to invite the panelists to please come and take your seats, and then we will have the conversation from up on the stage. Thank you. I'm sitting here. Thank you. All right. So just testing our mics, and they are working. So thank you for your patience in the last 30 seconds as we were taking our seats. And we are going to start the panel conversation. And if I may, Justice Razi, you'll be our first speaker on the panel today. And you are from the High Court Division of Bangladesh. And you are coming from a very unique context right now as we speak. In fact, I did see on social media that the Chief Justice of Bangladesh was having a conversation around judicial integrity actually today, which means that this is a topic that totally resonates with you in the context where you are coming from, where we saw political transition happening through popular movements of the people and the students. So in this particular context, what are the challenges to judicial integrity today, and how do they affect people-centered justice, particularly for marginalized groups? It would be lovely to hear your reflections.
Thank you.
By the way, you have 4 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Warm greetings from Bangladesh Judiciary. It was supposed to be attended by our Honorable Chief Justice, Mr. Justice Syed Refat Ahmed, but because of his some engagement, he is unable to attend the meeting, and therefore he sent me to represent him. As we know, it has already been pointed out at the opening statement, judicial integrity is something when the judiciary acts independently, free from bias, and ethically. We refer to the term as judicial integrity. And this judicial integrity definitely demands some core commitments from the judges, which includes independence, impartiality, personal integrity, propriety, equality, and diligence. For the last 17 to 18 years in Bangladesh, we have faced numerous challenges which threaten the institution, which threaten our judicial integrity to a great extent. And some of those challenges may be summarized as such. Number one, political pressure. The ruling party in power uses the machineries of the law, the mechanisms of the law, to oppress the political opponents by giving numerous cases, numerous thousands and lakhs of cases against them. Then comes the increasing dominance of the executive branch, which encroaches upon the judiciary's role, as pointed out Professor Conrad Lechmeyer in one of his scholarly articles, Disempowering the Courts. He pointed out, right at this moment, it is not the primary rivals of the judiciary is not the legislative anymore. Rather, it is the powerful government which is simultaneously pushing both the legislative and the judicial institutions. Number three, we also face some challenges from inside the judiciary by the persons motivated by self-interest, ambition, and other unethical considerations. Number four, the running down the judges only because of the fact that one does not like a particular verdict of a judgment of judges. So this environment creates an environment of fear, and as we all know, where there is fear, justice cannot prevail. Then we also face tremendous pressure, and right now from the media, particularly the media, they criticizes the judges to such an extent which hampers their personal and family life. And the judges, you know, because of their position, cannot respond to those criticisms. So another aspect is in delaying disposal of the cases, which is eroding public confidence to a great extent. Sometimes, from a personal experience, when I was a lawyer, I handled a case which was about 60 years of age, and I'm only 45. So the age of the case was it was aged than me. So another potential threats for the judicial integrity, I think it is at the hands of the illiberal rulers. By constitutional regression, the neutralizes the judiciary, the judges, and then try to impose and their political agenda through the judiciary. So these are the major issues which the judiciary of Bangladesh faces in the last 17 to 18 years. So, as has already pointed out, the marginalized and vulnerable groups are the sufferer of this. When the judicial integrity eroded and compromised, they suffers the most, and they sometimes find it very difficult to afford legal representations, struggle to navigate all the legal challenges, and they are sometimes be subjected to systematic biasness. So, keeping all these things into mind, the Honorable Chief Justice of Bangladesh, Mr. Justice Rifat Ahmed, has introduced a comprehensive roadmap to address these issues to restore public confidence in the judiciary. Amongst those, some of the importance are ensuring independence of the judiciary in the line of the Constitution. We know constitutionally we are independent, but sometimes our decisions, our thinkings are shaped by socio-political reasons. Then establishment of a separate judicial secretariat to have full autonomy over the judicial system. Then enhancing public transparency and accountability to ensure and to restore public confidence. Establishing a council for appointment of the judges, strengthening the Supreme Judicial Council and Judicial Service Commission for appointment of judges for their transfer and to regulate their behavior. Then showing zero tolerance towards corruption, and as well as strengthening the legal aid services to minimize the backlog of cases. So it is strongly believed this, if those roadmaps, those initiatives are implemented, it will help to a great extent to restore public confidence in the judicial system of Bangladesh. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Justice Razli. I really appreciate your frankness and openness. I know that sometimes these conversations I had and there's no much openness of some of what the challenges are, but we really appreciate this. I want to move on to you, Justice Sapana. Justice Sapana Pradhanmala, you are a judge of the Supreme Court of Nepal. You have been leading the way, and you've been a trailblazer in many ways, and in many areas actually, including on law reform on gender-based violence. You've also been involved in many other intergovernmental processes, including the development of the 2002 Beijing follow-up roadmap. I was really looking at your CV and I was like, there is so much to say and, in terms of the work that you have been doing. With all that in mind, how does judicial integrity intersect with the broader development issues of gender equality and environmental justice?
Thank you. Thank you for having us here and having such a timely meeting when rule of law is in crisis and judicial integrity is in question. Yes, for too long, checklist for integrity was due process, clean conduct, no corruption. Of course, all those that matters. But it is not the whole story. Because when you zoom out, you see the effect of neutrality, effect of inequality, which is like different, disproportionate, and marginalized community. So integrity is not just about how the law is applied. It is about who the law works for. It is about fairness. It is about impartiality, and these are not optional. They are the soul of justice, and they cannot be compromised. What we see, the triple jeopardy, especially coming from South Asia. Imagine walking into a courtroom where your gender makes you a liar, your caste makes you untouchable, and your poverty makes you invisible. That's everyday reality for millions of women in our region. And it is not just a legal system. There is a social cost, seeking justice, there's an economic cost, and when marginalized women speaks up, their entire community turn against them. So this is not the justice. Then what matters most is not what judges know and understand what fairness is. Can same standard give fairness to them when the experiences are different? And there's a need, their need is different. Denial of right has not the same implication on them. And what equality means when there is a huge disparity and women are in disadvantaged position. They are excluded in a ways with different reason, and system justifies discrimination in the name of culture, religion, tradition. Will sameness approach can bring equality in result? A young girl was gang raped, and the High Court, the District Court and the High Court acquitted the accused, and the justification was she was giving inconsistent opinion. And when it came to our court, in the Supreme Court, we said, this is a rape trauma syndrome, because she was under depression, she was hospitalized, and we also said, why are you looking for the location of crime? In case of rape, woman's body itself is a location of the crime. So integrity is not neutrality. Integrity is to put our foot in their shoes and feel it. It is about bringing empathy. It is about fairness. So it may look like a revolution. Gender equality calls to ensure in the courtroom where women are not just heard, they are believed, they are cared with dignity. Judiciary filled with courageous judges. We don't just need women in the system. We need ethical representation. Therefore, gender equality is not a favor. It is a foundation of a just world. It is a critical element of judicial integrity. And while we are dealing with different crises, we are living in a triple planetary crisis. Climate collapse, biodiversity loss, runway pollution, they are crashing into each other like waves in a stream. They are justice issue. And the court is now one of the last places where truth can still confront power and win. De jure rights means nothing without de facto. A judge with integrity interprets it with courage, with conscience, with tomorrow in mind, because protecting the environment is not activism, it's a constitutionalism. Judges has also been honoring global moral compasses. They understand the Constitution and principle is not a case. It is a breeze between what it is and what it ought to be. And they root their ruling in environmental justice, fair distribution, right to participation, right to information. These principles are, again, not optional. They are the pillars of environmental democracy. So environmental justice is not a theory, it's a survival. It's about people. Judicial integrity is what connects us. It says environmental right are human right. Now we even say investing in climate justice is a human right. The marginalized are not just affected, they are targeted. Integrity means refusing to be neutral in the face of injustice. In one of the cases in Nepal, in the Everest case, the court says nature has a right, nature has a dignity. So rejecting the false choices between development and survival, they tell us, pick up one, growth or greenery. Our job is ensuring justice. Judges with integrity rejects these false binaries. They ask, what kind of growth? For whom? At what cost? And when the law is too quiet, they speak They speak louder. They expose the cracks. They ask, where is the plan? Where is the oversight? Where is the protection? They don't just interrupt the law. They reimagine justice. They know how to choose between green and growth. They have learned to use different tools. No harm principle. If it's not an appreciable harm, if there is no possibility to mitigate the harm, no development. And we have been using EIA as an instrument in environmental, to make, for environmental governance, because the next time a woman stands before a court, next time when a mountain is devastated, next time when a river cries, will the court blink or rise? The answer cannot be neutrality. It must be courage, conscience. This is not just about judicial integrity. This is about soul of justice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Justice Apana, for really bringing all those points to the fore with a very, very clear clarity, right? Because the rights of the planet and the rights of the environment are intricately linked with all our rights. And if we are really going to be entering into a regime where there is good protection of all those rights, quite a lot of it is going to be from the bench. And then some of the challenges around adjudicating on these very sensitive, politically charged, also highly economic issues is not something that one can underestimate. Justice Amy, you are, yes, right next to me. You are working with the Supreme Court of the Philippines, and you are a writer, you are an author, and one of the key things that I did see on your bio that really struck me was that for quite a long time, you had a zero backlog case docket as a judge of appeal. And I'm saying this very intentionally because we do know the challenge of case backlogs in our cases, in our courts rather, in how all of that affects access to justice. And that is quite a feat that you have. This is one of your history and one of your records. With that said, I want to find out from you, what are some of the challenges and some of the strategies that have proven effective for you in building public trust in the judiciary? And how can judicial systems build protection systems that are resilient and in particular resilient against corruption? Thank you.
Thank you, Ribai. Thank you, Ribai, and good afternoon, everyone. I am one of the only 2 female justices in the Supreme Court of the Philippines, which comprises 15, including the Chief Justice. So we're 2 out of 15 members of the Supreme Court of the Philippines. For all jurisdictions, I would like to state without fear of contradiction that transparency and accountability are 2 key factors for gaining the trust of people in the justice system and in the rule of law. In the Philippines, we have institutionalized these key factors as among the guiding principles in pursuing our judicial innovations. We have institutionalized them in a document called the Supreme Court Judicial Innovations for 2022 to 2027, and we are now on our 4th year. And I am quite proud to say that we have accomplished so many projects already, and that are geared toward, among others, achieving efficiency, access, and technological adaptive management in our jurisdiction in order to pursue the principles of transparency and accountability. In the Philippines, we have veered away from the traditional role of judges and justices, wherein we were used to be only read by the people through our decisions. we have veered away from that image because we realize that we have to be seen, we have to be visible to the people. They ought to know what we're doing, who we are, and how we do it. And we believe that that's the only way we can really gain the trust of the people and believe that there is justice. There is real justice, and they don't have to take the law into their hands. To achieve visibility, transparency is, I think, a potent weapon against corruption, and accountability resists impunity. In the Philippines, we improve the access of people to justice by, first, we maintain our website of decisions and cases so everyone in the world can easily access how we decide cases and what cases really affect the lives of our people. Second, we also have a ready database for our people to search on the latest issuances of the Supreme Court. And then we have what you call the Philippine Reports. The Philippine Reports are hardbound books, but there are also an online version of Philippine Reports. It is a collection of the decisions that are rendered by the Supreme Court on real time. All right. So we also have the unified legal aid system in the Philippines. We have just recently launched it, where every lawyer in the land, although there are some exceptions, is required, even those who are based abroad, they are required to render at least 60 hours of free legal aid. This is on top of the free legal aid being given by our Public Attorney's Office, which is a creation of the law, the Integrated Bar of the Philippines, and the so-called the Curriculum for Legal Aid program in our colleges of law, where the fourth-year students were already exposed under supervision of a supervising lawyer to handle cases already, so that when they pass the bar, they are already ready to practice law. Now, with respect to transparency, we have codes of conduct for judicial officers, judges and justices. We have code of conduct for our court personnel. We also have code of conduct for our lawyers. As you know, judges and justices are also lawyers. And we also advocate the no dichotomy doctrine, which means that a judge cannot behave in his life only because he is a judge. Whenever he holds a hearing, he conducts a trial, or he is in court, that his good behavior should not stop there. It goes and comes with the judge even when he goes out of the courtroom. So we call that the no dichotomy doctrine. We also have a disciplining body, which is the Supreme Court, and we are very, very serious about this. All right? In the Supreme Court, cases are not only filed directly with us, but they can be filed with the Integrated Bar of the Philippines, with our Judicial Integrity Board, or with the Court Administrator's Office. But in the end, all their decisions should go up to the Supreme Court. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Justice Amy, and I think one of the key takeaways from the many, many important points that you have raised is really about breaking the institutional barriers that divides the justice system, the bench, from the people. and that there are lots of strategies of doing so, and we see how that is playing out in the Philippines with significant results. So, Professor Adjunct Researcher from the Indonesian Judicial Research Society, Mr. Mohamed Rezaldi. It is really a pleasure to have you. And I know you are speaking right at the end. I wanted you to have the opportunity to listen to the justices speak, because on this panel, you are representing a very important constituency, which is civil society, which is the people. And again, the justices have tried to demonstrate as much as they can what they're doing from their end to connect with the people, but you are sitting from a very special place. With that in mind, how can civic action and community efforts support reforms to promote a culture of accountability in judiciaries, and also even to hold the judiciaries accountable, right? So it's not just for them to implement, but also for civil society to hold judiciaries accountable. Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Refai. Thanks for adding the pressure. It's already hard for me to sit here between all the judges, but thank you for the question. And allow me to start by setting up some context, because I'm going to speak on my experience from Indonesia. So based on my assessment, I think our judiciary is not looking very good currently. Well, it's not according to me, because if you can look at the World Justice Project website and search Indonesia, when it comes to absence of corruption, I forget the correct score, but the color is red, meaning very, yeah, very low in terms of the score. And also, if you look at the corruption perception index, our country, if you go back to 1995 when the first corruption perception index is launched, we are ranked 41 out of 41, bottom of the every country. But I know that it's not always like that. There are times, there are periods where we find that judges are trustable. Efforts has been made in order to reform the judiciary, and also to engage with civil society in terms of making the reform happen. And your question about how can civil society help the court in terms of promoting accountability, I think one of the approach usually you can see in every country there is court monitoring organization usually, yeah, whether it's run by the universities or NGOs, but it's basically a watchdog where you go to the courts and observe how the trials run by the judges, whether or not they comply to the law or not, and if there is any violation in terms of the procedural law or maybe it's the substantive law. That's one thing, that's one approach, you know, by making sure that making them judges held accountable for their performance. But on the other side, I think beside of being a watchdog of the court, there's also other approach where civil society can work along together with the judiciary, you know, in terms of developing commitments also and realizing the reform, you know, as a think tank probably you might say, and provide technical assistance to the judiciary. And this is something that we also try to work on moving forward by working together with the Supreme Court of Indonesia. And it's been very good. I think the progress has been very positive in terms of making sure the reform is implemented. Actually, it goes back to 2010, since the first time the civil society pushed the Supreme Court to have this sort of what we call a blueprint of reform. So it's basically a document where the Supreme Court and civil society develop together on what is needed in terms to improve the quality of our courts. And it's still being implemented until now. So it's a long-term planning documents. And as the result of that document, our court actually creates or establish a specific unit within the Supreme Court where civil society representatives can sit together with judges and work on policies on access to justice, on anti-corruptions, on vulnerable groups, what can be improved in terms of issues on that areas. And we sit together with judges to discuss about that. I think that's one, that's also, I think, approach that can be very beneficial for judiciary, because it's not only promoting accountability, promoting openness to the court, but also building trust with the judiciary. And like as Justice Amy said, it's important for the judiciary to have the confidence from the public, and this is one, I think, one approach that can be used and in order to have the same ownership feelings about the reform itself. So it's not just the court doing something and the civil society just as the user not knowing everything. But together, they can work together and also build the commitments as well as policies to tackle those problems in terms of accountability, transparency, also fighting corruption, because there are also working groups currently where, aside of the Judicial Reformative Office that I said earlier, there's also working group within the Supreme Court where also judges and civil society representatives working together in terms of making sure what can we do to prevent corruption happening in justice area. I think that's one or two things that I can share with this panel. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mohammed. And I think this is critically important because oftentimes, you know, we sometimes discount collaborative efforts. You know, exercising oversight doesn't necessarily mean, or civic oversight, always being to criticize and to critique, but there's also that opportunity to say, let's collaborate, and it's critically, I think, one of the points that came out of what you are sharing with us. So just to advise the audience, both in the room and online, we are going to have a few more exchanges with the panelists, and then we'll open the floor for conversation, for questions, for any points of clarification before we end the session. But one of the key things, which is critically important, and it continues to emerge in the conversations that we are having on rule of law, on access to justice, is about AI. Right? So in fact, the room next door is exclusively focusing on AI. But in our case, we are bringing AI to the conversation on judicial integrity. So, Justice Apana, can I come back to you and ask the question, as AI enters the justice systems, as it enters your courtrooms and your systems, how can we ensure that it is used to reinforce judicial integrity, efficiency, and effectiveness, and people-centered justice, and not undermine judicial integrity and all the ethos that you stand for?
Thank you. Did you read in my bio any work on AI? This is a completely new topic for me. Yes, I mean, as we all have seen, AI has been bringing efficiency in judicial administration. but I doubt if it is same when it comes to justice delivery or judgment writing. We are standing at the threshold of a transformation where artificial intelligence is not just assisting us, but what we have experienced, it is also influencing us. While welcoming AI into our courts, we must ask, are we strengthening the spine of justice or surrendering its soul? To answer that, we must question if AI undermines judicial integrity. If not, what is at stake today? Judicial integrity is a living principle. It is the ability to hear behind the silence. But how does this integrity get eroded? That is the question which we need to deal, because there's a beautiful thought experiment called ship of thesis. If we replace every plank of a ship one by one, is it still the same ship? Now think of a judge. If we replace our instinct, our insights, our consign, piece by piece with outputs generated by a machine, what remains? Are we still serving as a justice or just replicating the illusion of it? Judgment is not just a technical act. It's a moral act. It's an ethical act. It's a consign. Do we think if AI can carry that burden too? We have already seen red flags in Singapore Arbitral Award Court has already rejected because there was no application of mind in the arbitration award. So yes, AI can process argument, it can analyze precedents, but AI has not seen the tears of justice seeker. It has not walked the muddy lanes of a slum. It cannot weigh human suffering against cold text. It lacks soul. So human judges not only brings their mind, but their life experience to the court, along with their deep interaction with the society. Therefore, judicial mind is a ship we must retain. AI must assist with research, phrasing, formatting, but the spirit of judgment must always come from the judge's own consign. The world is definitely experimenting. AI tools are used by different jurisdictions. I'm not going to take all those names. These initiatives are example of hope, but they are also issue quite warning. United States tools like COMPAS, Compass, predict recidivism during sentencing, has raised concern of racial and systematic bias. AI can hallucinate. EU's artificial intelligence law has raised an urgent need for ethical guard and capacity building framework. Experts have called out of the risk replacing culturally rooted human judgment with standardized, opaque AI logic. Judicial language, when AI-assisted, is becoming less local, less empathetic, more generic. So we must ask, do you want code to sound like coding, decoding, or do we want to speak the language of human, language of justice? Now coming to the question on how we ensure its best use. The technology may evolve, but the principle that uphold integrity remains timeless. The bang rule principle remains the DNA of our judicial character. So what can be done? The path forward is not rejection, but it's responsible reintegration. So there are risks of bias. That is why we must train our judges not just in using AI, but discerning where not to use. Otherwise, the judge's reasoning may taint it before it even begins. So we must ensure that AI does not become a Trojan horse in our judiciary. AI should be a horse that speeds up procedural efficiency. Being a judge is not just about interpreting the law. It is about having empathy for the marginalized, a vision for the future, and awareness of systematic injustice that haunt our societies. A judge must be interpreter of culture, a guardian of the environment, and a self-aware individuals, constantly confronting with their own biases. So this is like the basic structure doctrine of our constitution, basic structure of judge, non-negotiable, no matter how advanced the technology is. This is not to say AI is a menace to be sought out, but if we have to embrace it, we must ensure that judicial independence and human decision-making remain at the core of every verdict. The threat of misinformation is not new. Once we blindly trusted the press, today people are blindly trusting the social media. Courts have historically held ground against such distortions accountable, and we must do so again with AI. So what can we do? We must build in-house judicial AI system. A court chat box that can help citizens access to information, assist lawyers, procedural updates. Ultimate aim is to access justice for all. Let us also recognize that AI can democratize the law, it can demystify the law, it can guide who cannot afford the counsel and bring hope to unheard. A judicial knowledge globalizes AI can be repository to precedents, ideas, and models for justice. And in a world where disputes grow more complex day by day, AI can assist, not replace our adjudicative work. My final word, it is not a call to fear AI.
Yeah,
This is a call to use it wisely.
right.
As we step into this new era, let us not forget technology may build the ship, but it is we judge who must steer it with clarity, with compassion, with courage. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Justice Sapana. I think what you've essentially done is to give AI the human elements, right, that it should have, so that we are able to utilize it with responsibility and get the efficiency that comes out of it, but without necessarily perpetuating some of the disadvantages that arise from it. Very, very quickly, Mohammed, I know when it comes to civil society, when it comes to engaging and working, they often say sometimes you cannot work by yourself or as an island. You need to connect with others. Perhaps just in 2 minutes, can you just give quick reflections in terms of how you've done cross-border connections with other civil society and other civic voices on building a movement for accountability, open government is part of, judicial transparency and judicial integrity?
Yeah, thank you, Rifai. In terms of international collaboration, or maybe as we call it peer learning, I think it's one of example I think that we have currently in Indonesia is the Open Government Indonesia. It's a platform where our government, including the judiciary, can learn from other countries and also learn from the best practices that already been done in other countries. And I think it's very useful for judges, because sometimes when we talk about reforms, the judges usually rather hear from other judges rather than from anyone else. They tend to listen from their colleagues, whether it's from the same jurisdiction or maybe from other jurisdictions. That's just from my perspective, but it's in Indonesia, I think it's very true, because, for example, just a couple of weeks ago, we have a representative from Hograt, the Netherlands Supreme Court, coming to Indonesia. And previously, the position of our Supreme Court with regards to the revision of our criminal procedural code is a bit strict. They don't want to change much on that. But then, when the Hograt representative come to Indonesia, they have discussions on how to solve these issues within our criminal justice system. It opens their position. It opens their mindset about how can the judiciary improve in terms of being open and being accountable in terms of in our criminal justice system. And I think that's the beauty of it, learning from other jurisdictions. But the problem is, I think, as mentioned in the previous panel, we cannot just take it for granted, take it and replicate everything that already been done by other countries, and we have to make sure that it is adopted with as Justice Sapana said earlier, mentioned about when we want to adopt AI, we have to make sure that everything is already being considered. That's the same thing with adopting practices from other jurisdictions. I think we have to be very careful about that and make sure that our society, our judiciary have the enough resources, have enough capacity to do that, and make sure that everything, when implemented, is going smoothly. And I think one example would be the open government, because that the open government creates this environment where judge not only the judiciary but all actors within the judicial system can learn from each other.
Yeah.
I even got a chance to meet with Justice Singh from Philippines in the Global Summit of Open Government 2 years ago, and we learned a lot about from Philippines. I heard about justice zones, I believe,
Yes.
if it's correct.
Judicial.
Yeah, the judicial or justice zones, it's a very fascinating idea where, every actors within the criminal justice system sits together instead of just working in silos.
Right.
And this is something that we face also in Indonesia, and I think it's very good that we can learn from each other. Like that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that response, and absolutely the value of the opportunity to learn from each other, but I think also quite critically, even to learn not just even in sectoral silos, but I think bringing together all the different elements becomes critically important. Judge Razi, I will not stop the story on Bangladesh because I still find it quite critically important in terms of some of the lessons that it is bringing, to the global stage. And as you go through these huge transformation exercises that you mentioned, the Chief Justice has initiated in Bangladesh following the political transition, perhaps it would really be good for you to share some of the thinking or the reflections around how are you going to be able to better communicate with your citizens, with the people, right? So that they really see the judiciary, they really see the judges as being there for them, not for them to be hauled before a bench, only to be tried and only to be judged. And I think that is important. And critically, in a context of polarization, how are you going to be doing this communication?
Thank you very much. I think engagement of the judiciary in the fragile and polarized environment is another aspect of judicial integrity. And sometimes this fragility does not mean the total collapse of the institution. Erosion of the public confidence in the judicial system is also a parameter and indicator of this fragility. So the role of the judges to be more communicative with the society, with the people at large, I think it needs some technical outputs, some technical initiatives, some of which has already been pointed out by Justice Ami, by Brother Giraldi, as well as Justice Shapana. So I would like to summarize some of these initiatives to be more communicative for the judges with the people. And some of these are, number one, simplifying the language of the judgments. Because sometimes with the judges uses so many technical words, even the reasonable person cannot, on going through the judgments, cannot understand the true import of the judgment. So simplifying the language is one of the criteria to be more communicative with the people at large. Then the summarization of some of the important judgments, not all the judgments, important judgments touching political, socio-economic condition. Summarizing those judgments is also can be an important element. And this summarization will include not the details of the judgment, but only the facts, the evidences, the opinion of the judges, and the final verdict. And this summary should be published in the official website, in social media, by way of news publication or newsletter, so that the people at large can know how their behavior to others should be shaped in future transaction. Then accessibility and creation of a robust website is also very important, so that the people, even from their workplace, from their home, they can access to that website and see and can be sure about the status of their cases, the fate of their cases, they can locate the case docket. So this can be another useful instrument. Then another important aspect is the judgment. In the judgment, the judges should avoid making any political statement, politically motivated statement, as we have seen earlier in many of our judgments, which is really eroded public confidence. Then judiciary can also engage themselves in public education, though it is said the judges should maintain a certain level of aloofness and detachment. But sometimes that does not harmonize with the situation. So they should be engaged in public education in collaboration with the universities, school, colleges, and NGOs, so that they can impress the people about the role of the judiciary, the need of an independent judiciary to maintain and uphold democratic institutions, democratic values. So this is a very important element. Then judges can also, through their central unit, can issue press note, briefing on important issues, on important cases. And there should be a centralized communication skill of the courts so that they can respond very quickly to any misinformation, any misunderstanding, any misquotation of the judgments and about the judges. And another important thing is live streaming, which is, I think in India, this has been practiced, and in Bangladesh, in International War Crimes Tribunal, it has been initiated. So when it is streamed live, so people confidence about how the proceeding is going on really impacts on building faith in the judicial system. And amongst other, the last of all, to have consistency in the judgments, so that people can understand in similar situation, they will be dealt similarly.
Yeah.
So I think if this can be ensured, the communication of the judges to the judiciary and their role in a fragile society will be very useful one. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Judge Razni. I would like to pick from some of the points that you have raised, and then I will turn over to Justice Amy before we get to interact with the audience in the room. And really the idea of removing the whole shroud of mystery, right, around judiciary, around judges. I think this is really about breaking all those barriers. Are there any other points? I'm now trying to harvest anything else that you think has not been shared as yet, which you think really we need to be able to do this in order to lead in these judicial reforms, in order to be able to move beyond the courtroom and be much closer to the people.
Thank you, Rivai. In the Philippines, we have, through the initiative of the Supreme Court, we have formed the so-called Justice Sector Coordinating Council, the one mentioned earlier by Brother Rizaldi. Okay, yeah, there is a realization by the Supreme Court that we cannot do everything to serve justice. We need to coordinate. We need the cooperation of first the enforcers of the law, the Department of Interior and Local Government, and the prosecution and the defense through the Department of Justice. So these are three, and the Supreme Court, of course. So these are three agencies of government that must coordinate closely from the very start when the case is filed until the execution of judgment, to see to it that justice is served consistently from beginning to end. So we have established justice zones in select areas in the Philippines to guard against delay in the dispensation of justice, and to emphasize that these cases are very important for the survival not only of the Philippines but of the world. So we have first the zone on anti-human trafficking. We we set it up in Mindanao because there seems to be a surge of trafficking in that place in our country. Then we have the green zone justice. We call it the green justice zone for environmental cases. And we also have the Tri-City Justice Zone, where we have involved 3 major cities in the Philippines where there has been recorded a high surge of online sexual exploitation of children. So through these justice zones, we have upgraded the efficiency of our justice system. We also have the mental burnout system for our judges and our personnel. We recognize that we cannot pour from an empty cup, that even our dispensers of justice can also get sick. They can also be burned out. They can also have mental issues. So before that happens, or if it happens at all, the Supreme Court has instituted a program to measure the mental health fatigue of our judges. And that we borrowed from the United States. That tool originated from the United States. And we also set up the mental health center with full support to anyone who needs it within the judiciary. And so, as for the innovation, because we want to improve our interaction with people, we have digitalized our court pleadings, our court orders. We have also deployed in select areas AI for a transcription of voice to text. Okay, in the Philippines, we have proved it to be 90% effective. So up as to the 10%, we are working on that. Okay, and then we have also formulated for the first time guidelines on the use of gender-fair language and court etiquette. So we have filed cases against judges who use gender unfair language in their courtroom, and who have been charged and found guilty of gender biases. Okay, so yes, you will take the mic. I see that as a signal that my time is up.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. No, I love the idea of the justice zones, but also absolutely and critically important, the idea of taking care of the mental health of the judges, of all the justice service providers, because sometimes we do tend to forget that it's only about servicing the people. Yes, absolutely, but how about those that are driving and delivering the service? So with this said, I will not even try to summarize the richness of what the panel has shared with us, but rather I would like to immediately open the floor, because we still have some minutes left for some conversation. So absolutely, thanks Ainura for coming up immediately, and maybe let's take the first hint from the floor. Thank you.
I am the first person in the history of the world to be sued for defamation for sharing on Facebook a news report from a news website without any comment. But the people crowdfunded more than $700,000 to pay the Prime Minister's damages and costs for myself and 2 other writers. What can be done to strengthen public trust and address the injustice of politicians using the judicial system to sue their critics?
Thank you so much. I think that is quite a clear and precise question, and not necessarily that easy. So I'll leave it for the panel to think about that while we take the next questions. Thank you.
This is actually related to the gentleman's question about that. And I want to highlight the issue of, and we are seeing an increase in the filing of cases that are referred to as strategic litigation against public participation. Harassment cases against community activists, grassroots justice leaders, not only in environmental cases, but also in other cases. So defamation is one example, but we are now seeing how judicial processes have been misused by corporations, by big law firms, against community leaders. In the Philippines, we have a special rules on environmental cases that specifically addresses the issue on SLAPs. And we have used that to our advantage to defend community leaders, and cases had been dismissed. But we are seeing an increase in cases, not only in the Philippines, but in other countries that are not addressed by existing rules. So we would like to see how judiciaries can prevent the abuse and misuse of judicial processes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's another hand at the back.
Maybe first.
Thank you. So I think I see one more hand after this, and then we will, two more hands, and then we'll go back to the panel. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm interested in knowing in these jurisdictions whether there are integrity advisory panels. So we have codes of conduct, but in my country, Nigeria, my organization, we conducted a study, and we discovered that the code, there is really just words. When you want to actualize this in the environments, it comes at you from different angles. For example, in some countries, judges don't attend public fora like this. In other countries, it's allowed. You know, so we would be interested in knowing from the panel, any member of the panelists, if there are advisory panels in your countries that kind of advise judges before they undertake any particular activity. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. That hand, and then the one at the back, and then we'll go around.
Thank you. I think it's probably safe to say that challenges to judicial integrity begin even before the judiciary is in action in the form of very politicized appointments, especially in countries where the executive branch has the sole power to appoint judges. And I think we increasingly see appointments where we can almost predict where the judge is going to come out on a decision based on who the appointing authority or who the appointing administration was. And I'm hoping to gain from your insight on any ideas on how we can combat the increasing politicization of courts. And perhaps to throw a concrete idea out there, I find it really interesting when we compare the number of justices in the highest courts of each country, and it really ranges from, I think I heard like over 130 in one of the highest federal courts in Germany to, of course, just 9 in the US and perhaps fewer in other countries. So if you have any reactions about that, I'd be very curious.
Thank you very much. Yeah, last hand.
Thank you so much for a very insightful session. Thank you, everyone. My question is, how do you maintain judicial integrity from political interference? And like in Asia, we can see that if both parties are, they are from minorities or they are poor and all, there is no interference. However, if there is one party is, like so-called high profile, the, judicial integrity, there will be shaking. So how do you maintain those, those things? And currently, we can see that, media trial is going on everywhere. So how can we maintain our judicial integrity from those interferences as well? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I see some similarities across the questions that are coming. So perhaps when you respond, if you touch on a point, perhaps the next panelist doesn't have to repeat the same, so that in the next 5 minutes or so, we are able to respond and cover, because I understand we should finish in a couple of minutes' time. So,
I'm trying to ask one question.
Yes, please. Okay, go ahead.
Because having here a young, newly appointed judge from the Bangladesh is a big opportunity for us to hear from him. And what I have been confronting within myself, because the Constitution upholds values of equality. The equality is one of the critical elements of judicial integrity. But in your country, whole movement started against reservation, against quota. So how court, what role court is playing? How court is interpreting this situation?
So maybe should we, sorry, may I
Thank you very
extend
much.
that?
Basically, this is a very critical issue to address. The movement that began in July, August 2024 in Bangladesh was centered around a particular judgment of the Superior Court. Initially in 2018, there was a movement from the students to reduce the quota system. In Bangladesh, for a long period of time, in public sectors, the appointment was made based on quota system mainly, and the percentage of quota was around 60%, and only merit-based appointment was only 40%. So it was the demand from the student to have the quota system demolished or reduced, and to ensure fairness in public appointment. So when the then Prime Minister declared there will be no quota system in Bangladesh, then one of the aspirants filed a writ petition challenging the said decision of the Prime Minister. So though it was a political, it was a policy decision of the government, but the court interfered in the same and restored the quota system. That is 60% on quota-based and 40% in merit-based. So this led basically the movement. Then it was associated with some other factors and the ultimate fall of a regime, 17 years of regime. So in this particular case, when the matter was brought up to the higher judiciary, to the appellate division of Bangladesh, the appellate division, considering the principles as enunciated in our constitution, that there should be an equality and fairness of opportunity in public employment. So the appellate division reduced the quota system only to 7% and left it open 93% for merit-based appointment. So that was the turning point. So I hope Justice Shapna has got my answer on this particular issue. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't know if any one of you would like to pick, because I think it's connected and related, the issue of the political, use of the judicial system. Yes, please. If you can
Yes, sir. Thank you for that question. I think that is a problem of every jurisdiction in the world. In the Philippines, we have, it's pending now with the Senate, and hopefully it will be approved. It is called the Judiciary Autonomy Act, that will also include the fiscal autonomy of the judiciary, so that we don't have to deal with politicians during the hearing on budget, for the budget of the judiciary. And we have also upgraded the salary scales of our judges, so that they will, hopefully they will be immune from temptations or from, yielding to the demands of the people that have helped them get appointed. What is so, it is not ideal that our appointments are political in nature. Political in the sense that only the president can appoint us. But I think the one that somehow offset that is the fact that we have a judicial and bar council that that screens the applicants, and the president has no option to expand that list. It is a list that has been drafted by the Judicial and Bar Council, the short list. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. And perhaps it could also be a response to the gentleman from Nigeria who was asking about, is there advisory councils, for the judiciary, or are there any other bodies, right, that are there perhaps to support part of the regulation of the conduct of judges, or of the behavior of people that are sitting on the bench. So hopefully I think that helps a bit. But there's still a key question, and I was wondering whether, Mohammed, you may want to take it, relating to SLEEP, the strategic litigation against human rights defenders. So we are literally seeing a capturing of the system in a strategic litigation against human rights and environmental defenders.
Yeah, thank you, Rafai. Yeah, with regards to SLAP, yeah, I wanted to reflect this to what happened in Indonesia, and I think I have to go back to the legislation, because every jurisdiction might be different, but in Indonesia, the protection from SLAP only covers for environmental defenders, and not for, say, for human rights defenders and other types of expression activity that that falls outside the environmental defender. That's why I think one of the way, coming from the civil law traditional country, I think one of the ways to expand it, so that every expression activity should be protected by the law. And also, I'm not sure how this should be interpreted in the common law jurisprudence, but I'm sure that in every country there's a freedom of speech as part of the human rights. And I believe that that should also covers any activities with regards to defending human rights activists and other types of activity that falls under that. And with regards to advisory the integrity advisory in Indonesia, we do have a Judicial Commission. So it's a separate body from the Supreme Court and the Constitutional Court, who are given the mandate to uphold the Code of Conduct. So they're the one receiving reports from court users. Also, they also train judges on how to actually live making sure that their behavior is within the Code of Conduct. So we have that in Indonesia, the Judicial Commission. But in terms of giving punishment or sanction, it's a different thing, because the Judicial Commission can investigate if there is any allegation. But when it comes to punishment or sanction, the Judicial Commission can only give recommendation to the Chief Justice, and the Chief Justice will decide whether or not to continue with those recommendations. And this has creates a debate in the civil society, because sometimes the Chief Justice remains silent when the Judicial Commissions have finished with its investigation. Even with the recommendation, there's nothing been done with regards to those recommendations. And one more thing, I think, about the political interference, I do see there's a trend in Indonesia where this is related to how the judiciary can be independent in terms of budget, because in Indonesia, our judiciary is still dependent to the government when it comes to budget allocation. So one of the trends that is also being advocated within our country is to set up a trust fund. If I don't know if any other jurisdiction has that, but this trust fund is actually being developed in order to make sure that if the Supreme Court or the Constitutional Court, if there is any reform or programs that they want to do and it's not being covered by the national budget, or maybe because there is political interference and they make sure then the government decide to cut those budget, this fund can be used to replace the national budget. And this has been going, the pilot has been established for specifically for victims of to protect victims and witness. So we do that to make sure that every victim and witness rehabilitation is being covered, and if the national budget cannot cover that, the trust fund will be used to support the victim and witness.
Yeah. That's an innovative approach.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I'll give you the last word, Justice Apana.
I want to address the question of political interference. And coming from Nepal, giving my own experience, everything is political. The appointing body, recommending body, appointment process for the judges, everything is political. On top of that, not only social issue, economic issues, but all the political issue also comes to the court.
Yeah, yeah.
So what choices, what options we have, that is a big question. Unless the constitution is changed, unless the law is changed, it's not possible. So what has been possible up to now? The courage of the judges.
Yeah.
Standing against, being impartial, independent, and coming out of the fear of impeachment, deciding based on the values and principle that allows us to interpret the Constitution with rule of law. So the courage is the main what we all have to stand with.
Thank you so much, Justice Apana. Thank you so much, Justice Razi, Justice Amy, Assistant Adjunct Researcher Mohammed, for these very, very insightful points that you have made during the panel. Perhaps one round of applause for all our panelists. I will not try in any way to summarize the points that they have made, but I think just two things I want to acknowledge. I think number one, the levels of honesty, right? Because I think it has to start there, that there are challenges. It's not an easy task. And the second thing I want to acknowledge in all of this is the level of innovation of ideas, of what can we do and how can we do it. And some of the levels of innovation are really human-centered. Having that courage, being out of fear, I think exactly some of these last ways that we have said, but also the level of courage to confront mammoth, politically politicized institutions that are usually really, really heavy to move. But we can see the needle moving. And part and parcel of all of that is for justice to be delivered to the people. And I really, really appreciate your courage in being able to do all of this. I want to take advantage of this opportunity, dear colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen, to officially use this time to share with you that we are launching a new publication on judicial integrity and independence in Southeast Asia that really complements the conversation that we have been having here today. This report was prepared as a regional initiative by the Judicial Integrity Network in ASEAN, and I know quite a lot of the justices here have been part of the process, and this work being led by the UNDP office in Bangkok. It's a process that took over a couple of years with a lot of discussions, consultations, and analysis leading to this report. And where you are sitting, you have these cards with the QR code where you'll be able to access the report online. And lastly, also to advise you that with our partners, UNODC, there is also quite a wealth of knowledge and information on judicial integrity that is on the UNODC website. So please do also go there and find additional information, ideas, best practices, as well as lessons learned from previously implemented work and projects. One last point. UNDP recently launched a policy paper on people-centered justice and security. The QR code is also on cards that are in the room, so please do pick those and use the QR code to access the document and take a look. One final round of applause for the panelists and for yourselves. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Justice, thank you.
So we need to hand you over.
I know there's so much to say. There's so much to say.
Chair,
Thank you.
we also have some for you guys. Where is our souvenir? Hi. Nasa room niyo po. Pwedeng kunin. Bigyan natin sila. Yeah, can you please?
Ay, sige po. Yung keycard niyo po nasa bag. Yung keycard.
Yes. Paano yan? Aabot pa ba tayo? Baka hindi na.
Hi, Judge Amy. Okay, let me help you. Suntria. Judge Suntria, remember? In Thailand. Yes, she actually sent me that to greet you. Yes. And this is